Welcome to Elmar's ecosystem.
It's an ecosystem. Everything is connected.
It's an amazing experience.
Okay, we are here today at the Botanical Garden. Lekker early actually, which is great. This is my earliest podcast probably ever so far, but I like it. I like you're a morning person and you get your stuff in order before the day starts. So yeah, maybe just introduce yourself, who you are, and then we can go from there.
I'm Christiaan Viljoen,
Okay.
and I was born in George, grew up in George, and I've spent my whole childhood in George, and then when I started working, I went to university in George as well, and then when I started working, I moved away for about 10 years, working out of George, and in 2003 I came back to George again. So,
Okay. So what work did you do? What work did you go and do?
I was working as a field guide.
What's a field guide?
Yes, I would like to say that I was working as a specialist bird guide,
Yeah.
because that's my sort of my speciality is birds. But often it was jeep jockey and going after the big five, because most of the clients at the lodges where I worked it was very
wanted to
big
see.
five orientated. But the nice thing, I must say most of the lodges, many of the lodges were promoting the holistic safari experience, where you look at trees and birds and insects and in between the big five as well, and big game.
But most of the tourists probably want to see the big game.
That's what
obviously.
they're here for, absolutely. But that's what they think they're here for. But when you open their eyes to everything else, then they start to realize it's more than just the elephant and the lion. And
It's a whole ecosystem.
and how everything fits together. And that's what's so beautiful about nature. If nature was just an open field with elephants and lions, it would be quite boring.
So where was this? Everywhere where you did this field guiding, was it like?
I started close by at a place that used to be called the Nyaru Game Lodge. It's now Brandwag Game Reserve. And moved from there to Gondwana Game Reserve, which is also close by.
That's in the Karoo, right? It's got the elephants.
Gondwana, there is Gondwana lodges in Namibia, but this Gondwana Game Reserve is near Mossel Bay in the Renosterveld farmland,
Okay. I know
just
where it is.
north of northwest of Mossel Bay.
Yeah.
Big reserve, 12,000 hectares.
Wow.
I don't think it's grown much since I've been there. I started working there in 2015. And but what a magnificent place. It's a very good conservation project. Interesting model as well, how they operate or bought the reserve by buying land and then selling land selling houses and properties on the land to create the reserve.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, sort of eco-estates.
Yeah, the ecotourism is
So the big tourism industry, but then there's also homeowners.
is it also
Homeowners that live on the property. Lots of homeowners.
Wow.
Which is, I think, fairly unique in game reserves. You've got these different little villages within the game reserve where homeowners live, sort of semi-fenced off from the reserve. And then from there I moved to Bushman's Kloof Wilderness Reserve and Wellness Retreat in the Cederberg Mountains, which was a really nice experience, because there were no big five apart from leopard, and you really didn't see leopard very often.
Yes.
So that was a place where I was able to really grow in my knowledge of culture, South African culture and history, even ancient history of the San Bushmen and the art. There was 148 rock art sites on the 7,000 hectare reserve.
Wow.
Some of them truly spectacular art galleries, and going back many years. So
They're protected, obviously.
yes, there they are protected. Unfortunately, outside of the reserve, they are not so much protected, and people do funny things with rock art.
I've seen some weird graffiti on rock art. I was like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah, as you say that.
20,000 years old rock art, probably. Maybe older than that. We don't even know. And then people just writing Nigel on top of it all.
There was one interesting piece of rock art with old writing, which is there was a cave just below, almost on the border of the reserve, below a waterfall, where there was rock art, beautiful rock art, but there were also names and dates from the Anglo-Boer War.
Oh wow!
In the cave, so that becomes interesting, but still, it's still graffiti, I suppose. At the end of the day.
Maybe the graffiti will get interesting in 2,000 years or something. Who knows? I saw rock art recently at Eland's Bay, and saw the people there graffiti some of it, but it's the very local site. It's not like a protected area site. It's very open to the public, unfortunately.
There are several sites in the Botanical Mountains. I haven't visited all of them. I've seen one of them, which was nice.
Oh, really?
And I still want to explore and find some
Just
of the
keep
other
it disclosed, don't say what it is.
Yes, I will.
Okay. So obviously, I always ask this to my the people I interview usually, because I find it interesting to see everyone's background of how did they become passionate about nature, and I want to hear where did it start for you? Like what made you get up and say I love this, or is it just like you grew up with it, or was it just a passion that fueled you on the way?
I think my parents played a big role. Probably my dad played a big role. They are not, it's a sort of natural history people as such, or they don't have that background. My dad is a medical doctor, my mom is a teacher, and but my dad loves being out in nature. So from when I was very young, he would take me canoeing on the rivers and on the dam. And we would, whenever we did a family holiday, there would be a national park involved somewhere, or a nature reserve involved. So even though he didn't teach me much about the birds and the things, he certainly showed them and pointed them out to me, and the animals, and that certainly triggered my interest. And I presume they bought me books from a young age about animals. But my interest started at a very young age. My mom says when I was just starting to walk, I was interested in animals, always animals, and then it started with tigers and lions and snakes and things. So that to the extent that when I went to grade 1, my parents bought me my first field guide. I think I still have a copy of it somewhere. I think I've got a later copy of it. I don't know if I have the earliest copy here.
You've got a lot of field guides, by the way.
Yeah, finding the right one. That's one of my passions, are books, and I've been collecting them. I wish I knew all the knowledge in all of these books, but I haven't read all of them. But I thought I might spot it, but I might well have left it at home for my son to look at, because it's a very good beginner's guide on the wildlife of South Africa.
Do you know what the book's name is, or the author?
Author Louis Curator, I think, who also wrote this. Not Louis, Vincent Curator, at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
The frogs.
You wrote the book on the frogs with Louis Dupré.
Oh, nice.
Confuse the names. He was the author of this book, and that was a while ago, like 1997.
Oh.
So that's when I really started an interest. And I also
it's interesting how it started with field guides, because for me it also started with field guides, actually. Like I bought the Fynbos field guide, and I was like, just a little bit understanding of the veld, because I grew up in Western Cape there and close to Cape Town, so all I knew was really Fynbos, but I had a love for the forest because of Talian Matthäus novels.
Yes.
I always wanted to explore the forest, and then I had the opportunity to come here, and now I'm still here. So.
And the forests are absolutely, that's my favorite biome, is the forest biome, by a very, very long way. It's
such a mystery, that's why. So many things going on there that you're not unaware of, especially in the canopy layer. We walk on understory at the bottom. We don't really know what's going on top of us.
Yes, all these different layers. It's complex. The animals are fairly well hidden, and yet they can be colorful and bright because of the darkness of the forest.
Exactly.
And the gloom.
That's fascinating. This thing stopped now.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So,
what I want to ask, then you, obviously after that, you did this field guiding for how many years?
but then, so after Bushman's Kloof, I moved to the Eastern Cape. It was quite an interesting shift to a place called Siboya Game Reserve.
Okay.
A very beautiful reserve.
Wow.
Near Kenton-on-Sea on the Kariga River. It was really an adventure. That was, I think, it was the biggest adventure, the most adventurous place I worked. I had to operate a boat, so I got my skipper's license, and we pick up the guests, the clients in town at Kenton, and then take them 10 kilometers up the river to the camp, which was on the river, on the edge of the river.
Fun.
And then whenever you wanted to do a safari, you had to sort of cross the river with the boat because the vehicles were on the other side.
Yeah.
We had to cross back again somewhere. Everything revolved around this river, Kariga River, which was tidal for 16 kilometers. It could have been 16 kilometers upstream.
Yeah.
Quite amazing. I mean, I remember seeing funny things like cuttlefish right up high up the river because the salt content was so high because of evaporation and a lack of inflow. It was quite dry for much of my guiding career in South Africa.
Remember,
dry periods,
dry period that time.
Very dry.
Oh.
So then, and lots of epic 4x4ing. It's very hilly, lots of steep inclines. So the roads you're going down and up like you can't believe it. So I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I remember just having one client that came through for a birding tour for 7 days, and we spotted 250 species in those days. It was including some crazy mammal sightings.
Seabirds as well.
We didn't do pelagic. Yes, we did do pelagic. We did go out, although it was very poor. It was not very well. We didn't go deep enough to see albatross, and we saw African penguin, and I don't think we saw very much.
What does pelagic mean again?
So pelagic birding is proper deep sea birding. It's birds that do not set foot on land at all.
Yeah.
So even a seagull would hardly be considered a pelagic bird. So it will be albatross and petrels and storm petrels.
Webbed feet.
And with those that can soar over the water. Some of them, once they've left the nest for 2 years, they can be at sea without seeing land. They sleep on the water and find all their food on the sea, and they breed on islands way off.
Yeah.
So that's pelagic birding. And then from Kenton, I moved back to George for a couple of months in 2018. Tried to start my own venture, explore Eden. I did this because we fell pregnant with our first child, and at Siboya we were living in a tent on the river. So really adventurous. So it wasn't going to be ideal for raising a child. So we came to George, and it was quite nice, a learning experience, setting up a company, setting up a website, promoting. I learned a lot of skills about marketing and just
and there was also a safari kind of experience, guiding experience.
It was different. It was more picking up people or meeting people and going birding. And I did waterfall walks, birding walks, general nature walks, birding tours, anything and everything, to diversify a bit, and explored a lot of trails in the Garden Route. It was a nice experience.
So, if I can ask you, what is your favorite birding spot here, like close to George?
I really enjoy the Uniqua Nature Reserves, Witfontein area. There's going from Plantation Road, you can go in, and there's wetlands, beautiful wetlands, which adds an element to the birding that many of the other forest birding spots don't have. And then you enter into this patch of forest, which is just a little isolated patch, but it holds, it's like a little bit of history saved. There are old trees there. Somehow they just decided not to cut that forest. I don't know who who decided to protect it. Many of the trees have tags on them, or numbers at least. But that patch of forest has nearly all the different forest birds.
I go to this patch. I don't think I've been there.
Yeah, quite amazing little bit of indigenous forest there. So yeah, I enjoy birding there. That forest holds a lot of memories because as a child I could walk there from home.
Yeah.
And I started birding when I was about 13. No, probably earlier when I was 8 years old. I started an interest, but I started being a really avid, focused bird watcher from the age of 12, 13. And then I remember seeing my first Narina trogon in that forest patch.
Oh,
I think my first white-starred robin, and many of the forest birds are also my favorite birds. So,
yeah, I love the Narina trogon. I in the Boslorry.
I enjoy that bird so much. I actually named my daughter after it.
Really? Narina?
Narina, yes.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Because I like the history of the name. The Narina trogon was discovered here near Knysna, George Knysna area by Francis Levant in about 1780. And
I didn't know that. So it was discovered here.
It was discovered here. It was the first specimen was collected here in the Garden Route. And at the same time, there was a Khoisan girl here whose name was Narina, or she was more like a leader in her community where she lived. And he thought she was really beautiful. And when he discovered this beautiful bird, he named it after the Khoisan girl.
That's cool.
Narina. And
That's actually cool.
in Khoisan, the word Narina means flower, which is why there's also a lily called the Narine, which is named after the Khoisan word flower.
That's cool.
So that's got a lot to it.
Narine is the genus, right? How many? There's a couple of species in that genus.
Yes, there's a whole, and there's a magnificent red specimen in Cape Town area. And I think we've got a beautiful pink one that's found as a sort of Gondwana, Mossel Bay area.
Yeah.
I have to grab the book.
So there's a mountain one here as well.
Yes.
Narine Himmelus, I think.
Yes.
Don't take my word on it.
No, anything in the Amarellidaceae family is always spectacular.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you know where the trogon part comes from, the bird, Narina trogon? Is that like a reference to the type of bird?
Yes, there are many species of trogon, especially in the New World, in the Americas. There are lots of species that have really diversified in all those forests, mountain forests, Amazon basin. There's so many different habitats, potential habitat for trogon. So they've really diversified right the way from Mexico, right the way down, probably, certainly down throughout Brazil, maybe even as far as the north of Argentina.
Yeah, I love that bird because that bird is just so elusive in the forest. And when you see the male, then you're like, it's so quiet and it's just looking at you. It's not like making a call or anything. Have you heard their call before? It's like a very soft.
Yes, it's
just like that. Wow. I love that. Yo, how many bird calls can you do? Can you do all of them?
And, I cheat. I use the apps mostly because the birds are so good at making their calls. But I can do a few calls.
Wow, that's very cool. Maybe we can do another one a little bit later.
So just to finish the timeline.
Yeah, the timeline.
From Kenton-on-Sea, I moved to George. From George, then the company I set up didn't work out. It was very busy during the season, but I don't think it was the company that didn't work out. It was me that didn't work out because I'm not very good at business. I can sell ice to an Eskimo, and then when he needs to pay for it, I'll give it to him for free. So that's my problem. I'm
generous.
Yeah, generous and not very business orientated. I've passionate about nature.
You have to be brutal in the business.
You've got to be brutal, really, with the small business as well. And I can't be brutal in that way. So that has been a challenge for me. So by February, we were running very short on cash in 2019. I started in February 2018. So about a year, I tried running this. And then I started looking for work, which was also sort of a blessing in this. I went through these agencies that you send your CV to, and they find places, and there's quite a big industry of that in the guiding industry. So they, a recruitment agency, and they found a placement for me in Addo, at a lodge called Riverbend Lodge, which is a private concession in the Addo National Park. Had an interview, was successful, and we moved to Addo, and it was incredible. That was I think I said as much as in 2019. In 2019, I started on the 25th of March, 2019, and it was the best. I think my best memories and the most amazing place I worked at. Not maybe it was adventurous too. It wasn't as adventurous as Kenton, but it was just amazing because it was really wild and really authentic. Working inside a national park, the concession was 14,000 hectares. It was certainly the biggest property I ever worked on. Nothing compared to Kruger. But
this just does 20 minutes. Sorry, you can continue.
And so then we settled there from 2019 until to 2023 for 4 years. I worked there, and luckily the blessing was that I was there during COVID, because if I had my own company running and COVID hit, I would have been without any income. Now our income dropped as many people, and especially the hospitality industry, suffered heavily during COVID. But I had a job nonetheless, and I learned many new skills because there were no tourist guides, so we were put onto maintenance, and so management, maintenance, HR. I built up lots of skills which I'm able to use here in my current position. Which after Addo, I started here in March 2023 as the curator at Botanical Garden. I took this as an opportunity to get into management, and there were some frustrations, as in any workplace.
How did you do the switch from Addo to here?
Well, I was told about the opportunity here in management, and then I applied, but I didn't. It wasn't sort of, please, I need a job. I just applied.
Was it also a thing like you wanted to come back to George, or?
No, it was literally an opportunity, and I didn't think I would get it. So I just applied nicely, and I had applied to other jobs too. I was, in Addo, I found it the lodge that was very strong on regulations when it came to the length of a safari, and I disagreed there at the time. So I like to have a little bit more freedom when doing a tour. Now, maybe I misuse that freedom too much, and I could easily go out for 5 hours when I'm supposed to do 2.5 hours. But being in a very strict system of 2.5 hours, and then the minutes are counted afterwards, that was a bit frustrating for me. I'm not sure. It just depends on the management at the time. So that was my only frustration at that lodge at the time. So I moved. And then I think more than that, the opportunity to get involved in management. So when they said, yes, come for an interview, and I came, and then when they said I can get the job, do I accept the job, then I grabbed the opportunity to really get involved, because I'd missed that opportunity at least twice previously when I moved from one lodge to the next, and afterwards found out that they wanted to promote me or whatever into a management position as head guide or something like that. But I didn't. I never really got involved in that. But it's really been a great journey of learning and growth. And I think the other thing about, as a field guide, you are involved, maybe you could call it environmental education, and opening the eyes of many people, especially also the rich and the wealthy, which is important because they have a big influence on what happens on this planet. They make important decisions. The investors, and they make important decisions.
They make helps a lot of companies.
So trying to open their eyes to conservation and nature and biodiversity was a great privilege, and I really enjoyed doing it. But it wasn't hands-on conservation in the way that I'm involved now, where I've got the opportunity to protect species, to really develop a reserve and a conservation area, which I really enjoy. So it's nice to be able to finally, I studied nature conservation back in 2010, and now to be able to apply a lot of what I've studied. I was able to apply just the facts, the ecology, and the...
and some of your own interests probably.
Yes, a lot of that, where I can now apply the management.
That's cool. I like that. You mentioned now you had managing opportunities for the other...
Gondwana, my wife, I got married at university. While I was still at university, and my wife followed me through this whole journey, which was very exciting. But when I went to Bushman Cliff, she stayed behind at Gondwana, and then she told me about the fact that they wanted to advance me to head guide. But I had made a promise to Bushman's Cliff that I was going to Bushman Cliff, and then I really, I'm glad I went there because it was a whole new learning curve.
That's the other benefit, because now you saw different places and you see different managing styles and you actually learn more probably
Yes,
by just staying at one place and just building yourself up.
yeah, there's definitely benefits in knowledge because as a field guide, every time you work in a new biome, you've got to know that biome. So you're forced, and normally I find the first 2 months or the first even 6 weeks of working at a new lodge is when you go through the most intense learning. There's a lot of pressure on you. You want to be able to answer the questions of your clients and guests on the vehicle. So you've got to know the trees, the plants, the birds, the insects. It's easy to know the mammals, and there are not many mammals in this country. And remember that most of our mammals are little mammals, and they're not interested in those. So the antelope and those are easy. So you know them before you even start guiding. But then when you arrive there and you've now discover in the Cedarburg, there are these trees that you've never seen before. There was even a yellowwood I didn't know existed at the time when I started there. Elongatus, yes. So
I love that yellowwood. Very cool.
So it opened my eyes, and I enjoy exploring. So from every time I worked somewhere, I used that. I got to know the area around it. So going to Lambert's Bay, going to the mouth of the Olifants River, and so on.
I like that area. That's a very beautiful.
I would never have gone there really. Maybe for birds.
Yeah.
But
I was there recently. That Verloren Vlei. There's a lot of birds there. Very cool area. Eland's Bay. I could see people live there like ancient people, like long before.
It's crazy to think how many elephants there were in that area. If you look at the paintings, are full of
elephants and
they
hippos, and water buffalo. And now
this country was wild.
It was wild.
Rhino. I saw paintings of rhino.
Wow.
But I saw paintings of giraffe. There were undoubtedly giraffe in the Cedarburg Mountains. So I don't know if those bushmen would have travelled down from the Kalahari or from deep in the Eastern Cape to have been able to see giraffe. There must have been giraffe there.
Yeah, but I think it was very long ago. I think those paintings are much older than we think, actually.
So
and a lot can change in 20,000 years.
I know one painting, they said a piece of rock with painting on it fell down and got covered up. And because they cannot determine the age of the paintings. Or at least when I was there, they said they couldn't. Because there's nothing measurable in the paintings itself. But they can determine underneath the paintings in the cave floor, they can excavate and they can find items that can be dated with carbon dating. And
pottery or
all that sort of thing, yes. There's so much, there's layers of history underneath the paintings. And then they found a painting that had fallen down, a piece of the slab that had just sort of
crashed from
the top, and there was layers on top of it, and those layers I think they could date to about 10,000 years. The layer where the painting was lying.
Sure.
So that just said that at least 10,000. And there were layers underneath that with activity, human activity.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy. I can't actually imagine that.
No, so the earth would have changed a lot, and the climate would have changed a lot. As you see how it's warming up now, it would have been quite different for the vegetation.
I've always wondered about the forests here. It was probably larger long ago, or maybe smaller. I'm not sure what theory you want to follow, but
our forests have interesting. They've got plants that are linked to other continents.
Yes,
and
like
trees.
Canonia.
Yeah, Canonia, and also the other one is the Wit Els. Platylophus trifoliata is really a shrub that's become a tree elsewhere in the world.
It's crazy cool. I love that tree. It's one of my favorite trees. The smell of it, it smells like this cinnamon. When you walk past it, I don't know if you've smelled it before.
Yes.
When you walk past the stream, you just smell the Wit Els in the air. It's like,
apart from birding as a hobby, I really enjoy cliffing, going upstream. Not cliffing as in swimming down rivers, but more rock hopping and climbing up waterfalls. And that's really fun. And I've did a lot of that when I was a boy, exploring all the ravines in the mountain here. And always climbing over and walking along the trunk of a Wit Els, because they grow horizontally as much as they grow vertically.
Exactly.
And they've got these trunks all over the rivers and streams.
Yeah, that's the one nice thing about George for me. It's like you were very close to nature. You can just quickly go and swim in a river if you want. That's where I grew up. There was no nature really. It was city life, and there's no you have to drive quite far before you can enjoy Table Mountain, for instance. It was like a 20-minute drive for me to get there.
Sure.
So here I can just walk out of my house and just walk up the street, and then you're in the mountain, you know, like it's crazy how cool it is. But yeah, tell me about your garden route journey, the botanical garden. Like was it difficult to start here? Did you have to get?
It was a big wake up, a big shift from working as I'm still an employee, but working under management and now being management and having to manage a team. I think there were 16 or 15 staff when I started here, and we've grown a little bit. But it was certainly really quite a challenge initially. But I had a lot of support.
That's great.
And a huge amount of support. I didn't really have much of a handover because the period of the previous curator leaving and me starting, there was quite a long gap from when I think she resigned until I actually started here. There was like a 6-month gap.
Wow.
So, maybe not quite 6 months, but almost that sort of period. And so there was, I did meet her for about a day. I think we spent 1 day. I don't know if it was 2 days doing a handover. So I had to figure things out for myself, and they gave me a clean slate. So new laptop, everything was starting over. And it was quite nice because the position here has always been a single manager, single curator. Initially there were no curatorship. It was just there's a trust board of trustees that also manage the garden, and then they appointed a curator at least a decade ago. The garden is 27 years old now. Yeah. This year it's turning 28. It's very young. So only recently did they start having management. Before it was just the trustees, and then they had gardeners, and they were able to tell the gardener, or maybe 1 or 2 gardeners, what to do. And then as the place grew, they started the nursery, and it was also run by volunteers. And so the place slowly grew and grew. Eventually they got management involved, and they got staff running the nursery and so on. And now it's really a well-structured organization. So what they did when I started is they split the curators, the management post, into an administrative manager and a projects manager. And myself as curator is overhead and projects manager. And then there's a finance manager or assistant manager, Beverly Wren, and she's able to deal with a lot of the financial side of things in the HR and takes a lot off my plate. So the previous curator really had a lot on her plate, having to run finances,
all of it,
the issues resolved around HR and all the documentation, all the filing, all the admin, and run the garden and the projects. And there are a lot of projects around the garden that are not necessarily the garden itself. I think this position leans itself towards being involved in conservation all around. I sit on the tree committee. The previous curator also sit there. There's a George Tree Committee where we advise the municipality on what to do about the trees to plant, to remove more on removals as well.
Is it because of the beetle?
Maybe it started up with the beetle because there was a lot of mismanagement of trees. Maybe trees that were removed unnecessarily, and then maybe it wasn't even the beetle that was causing problems. But there is now this established tree committee, which is brilliant. And it's nice how the municipality does lean on that. Because when there's a tree that they get phone calls all the time, oh, this tree is on the pavement, it's a municipal tree, but it is knocking over my wall. Please, can I cut it down? Or come and cut it down. And then we go there and tell them why it shouldn't be cut down. Because George needs its trees. So it's nice to serve on that. Being invited to all
George can do with more trees, in my opinion.
Absolutely, and there's hope for that. So George is actually the Parks Department is working on a tree maintenance plan for George going forward. It's actually they lost all of the oaks. All the oaks died basically. Yeah, and there hasn't been replacement of trees.
They haven't really replaced them. No.
But it's a good thing because it needs to be done correctly. A lot of the trees that are planted in George get killed or die. It's almost like This is within human control, but it's as bad as it is out in nature. When trees grow in nature, many of them don't survive because they get eaten by this, that, and the other, and killed and stepped on. But here in George, it's probably the survival rate of trees is even lower than it is out in the Knysna forest or in the bushveld. And one of the main threats is weed eaters. They get planted in fields.
Ooh, I hate to see that.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, and you see there's a ring bark around.
You drive out towards the mall out east, and there's that big field on your right-hand side. As you drive out with trees, you must just look at the bark. There's like a strip missing at the bottom.
That's why those trees are dying. I've seen there's newly
they plant new ones and they die.
They die. It's because of the weed eater, probably.
And that's because of the lack of maintenance and management of the trees. So, and it's difficult because there's no procedures in place. So when a tree is planted, all those things need to be considered. So it needs to be planted correctly with nice compost and with fertilizer, and in George often with lime as well. And then it needs to be, in the first few years, managed. The branches, managing the cutting of the branches, that's another problem. Because they don't cut them correctly in George. They get companies that don't have the training and the know-how, and they cut tree to bits. But mostly pruning is done not for the sake of the tree, it's done for the sake of the electricity line or and then it's only about the line, it's not about the tree, and there's hardly anything left of the tree.
Through the tree.
Exactly, we see that a lot nowadays. I wish the lines would just all go underground. But then they'll cut the roots. So it's an interesting challenge, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the George tree maintenance plan is going to help, because that will hopefully stipulate how trees are to be planted and protected with tree rings, or wooden tree rings are like a edging around the trees and mulching, and so that weed eaters don't need to go right up to the trunk of the tree, because
just make a nice, like a buffer zone surrounding the tree so the grass doesn't grow there or something.
You need to do something within George. One idea is just let the grass grow around the trees. But it won't be accepted in our community. We've got a very conservative community. So having these islands of long grass or weeds around the trees will not be accepted. I don't see it happening in 100 years in this town. So
I agree with you.
So it has to be managed in a way, and maybe with bark or with something you've got to.
So just educate the people that's on the ground doing it, because the same thing happened at our school. We also had planted, before I started there, they planted some trees, and I went to look at the trees. I was like small yellow woods. All of them ring-barked by a weed eater. And then there's some guys working there at the school, and I just spoke to them. I was like, guys, come on. And I showed them the tree. We can't do this. Like, I'm going to plant more trees here. We can't do this. And they're like, okay, I understand. Sorry. Because they don't really think about that. They just want to get their job done.
Absolutely, and neatly. And they don't see it happening. They do not notice.
They don't realize it.
So the problem is definitely that the trees are being cut. But in this case, it's one of those scenarios where you don't treat the problem because you'll never sort it out. The cause is the fact that the tree is not protected. You must treat the cause and protect the tree by some means of management, like a rose ring or edging, or something, or just making sure there are no weeds or grass around the tree to be cut. And then you will protect the trees.
That's a good idea, actually. A protocol where you have to plant something else around the tree.
Yes, you can put...
Just make a protocol.
What do you... Agapanthus. You can plant agapanthus or dietes.
Something cheap. Dietes is a good one, because they love that white...
And they can handle the weed eaters. If they lose a couple of leaves, they'll just push new leaves. The trees can't handle it.
That's a good idea.
But if we don't do that, and I must say that you mentioned the school, worst case scenario, the garden, it happens here. We are so privileged in that we have other people cutting our lawns. We don't pay for it. So the George Golf Course pay for our lawns to be cut, George Golf Club, and we're very, very thankful for that. And George Municipality also pay for our lawns to be cut. So they make turns. 1 week the George Municipality come here with their tractors and their teams, and they cut the lawns with tractors and with weed eaters. And then the next week, when it's necessary, then a private company comes, which are paid for by George Golf Club. and they come and cut our lawns and weed eaters. So I can't really tell them how and what to do.
Yeah, because
which is it's a free service that we're getting.
Service, yeah.
I must just work on protecting our trees by implementing management. And at the moment, there are many trees that I can cut down because they'll never ever reach their potential because they've suffered. I mean, there are trees with a circumference like this, and half of them, when you go to the base, it's just gone. It's just eaten away completely. So it's interesting problems that we have to deal with.
You also get that problem with the flare rats. They also, I can remember when I planted trees.
What? Stinkwood or?
I can't remember what trees.
But no, it's not just, you're right, it's all trees. And the flare rats we've planted a forest called the 100-tree forest.
Yes, at the back.
Yeah, behind birds of prey. We fenced it to protect it from the bushbuck and the weed eaters. I've allowed we literally, it's a 100-tree forest, and 100 trees were paid for by a sponsor, generous sponsor, and then we went and planted another 75. So we planted 175 trees. Wow. I don't know if there are still 100 trees there, because of, I think mostly, as you mentioned, the flare rats. Yeah. They come and eat the bark for medicinal purposes, I presume. Especially during the drought that we've had this last winter, they went through a lot of bark and they ring-barked the trees. Crazy. So we have a lot of flare rats there because the wetland is just around the corner.
Yeah, but it's also natural.
It's nature, and I don't know how to protect it. I'm looking at products now. There's a product called Buck Off. I haven't managed to really find an easy source. I think I'll have to buy from out of town and courier it in. But it's like a pepper spray that you paint onto the tree or spray onto the leaves. Yeah. And then you don't, and it's quite sticky. It doesn't just rain off with the first rains. And
it's like just to repel all these...
It repels things that try to eat the tree. Okay. So hopefully rodents as well, but certainly buck. It's being used for bushbuck. Because that's our big problem here, is you plant anything that's quite palatable. And we've got about 6 bushbuck that live in the garden, and they just come and eat it right down. Yeah. There are trees that are many years old, 10, 15 years old in the garden, and that are still a meter tall. They've survived, but they are like bonsais. They've got a big, thick trunk, and they've just got tiny little leaves, and they just pretty around as though they've been pruned.
You should put a sign up and say, this is a bonsai tree made by a bushbuck or something.
Exactly.
Funny thing. That is hectic. But, you know, the other side of it is the bushbuck also gets something from the garden.
Sometimes I feel like this is more like a zoological garden than a botanical garden with all these bucks. But it is nature. Yeah. So I've got these cages from fences, and we move the cages around and put them over the trees and allow those trees to...
that will help. And just establish first.
And because they've got such an established root system and they're so old, when you put that cage over them, they just shoot out the top of the cage at a ridiculous speed, because now they can. There's nothing eating them from the top down.
Crazy.
So, that really helps.
That will help. So what are some of the future projects that you want to implement here at the Botanical Garden? Like what's like the goal here?
There are short-term goals and there are long-term goals. And the short-term goals, and with our very, very limited finance here, we are a private botanical garden. We're not under SANBI. We've get a little bit of a grant from the George municipality that we're very thankful for, but that only covers about 3 or 4 months of salaries and not even any maintenance. So it is a problem to get to these projects. Most of them can only be achieved through funding and sponsorship. So I'd like to see that our pathways are linked. We've got a network of pathways, but some of them are disconnected from others. So that the only way to access a path like the famous Mushroom Meander Trail, which is such a nice path in the garden, is you've got to cross the lawn for a long ways. And a lot of people don't think that lawns are there to be crossed. Tourists, some of them only walk on paths. So when there's a lawn, that's the end of the path for them, where they never get to see the whole garden. So we need a network of pathways that are connected to one another. And not only connected, but connected for people to allow universal access. So firstly, we can start with the most obvious, which is wheelchair access. We have steps in the garden, and we need to circumnavigate those steps with ramps that are wheelchair friendly. So one important ramp is just from our new main entrance up to the dam wall. I'd like to see a ramp built. We've already costed it, and that is just a very basic design. It will be nice to also have that design re-looked at, but the basic design being built is 311,000 Rand. just to get the one ramp. So I'll have to wait for funding for that.
Yeah.
And it's difficult.
Those walkways are quite expensive, actually.
They're expensive, and the ideal walkway. So I learned lots of little things over 3 years that I've been here now, nearly 3 years. Is that you don't want to compress the tree roots and compress the garden. So you want to build a lifted walkway. If I had the money and the means, I would build all the walkways as boardwalks, lifted above. Even if it's lifted 30 centimeters above the ground, the tree roots can grow underneath there, and there can be a layer of natural mulch underneath there, and the garden will be so much the healthier. But having these concrete pathways and you have to manage the tree roots that are lifting the pathways, it's not ideal, but it's what we have at the moment. So when we build new pathways, I'll try and see how many of them I can lift up, or at least do them maybe as compacted G7, because that's already better than concrete. Or pavers, because then you can manage it more easily. But these concrete pathways that cover a lot of our pathway surface in the garden are difficult to manage.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys make the forest that mushroom meander? Isn't that already made for wheelchair friendly?
That's wheelchair friendly, but you can't get there with a wheelchair.
You can't get there.
You have to physically drive there, and we don't allow people to drive in the garden without special permission. So they need to get special permission.
Have to make a walkway all day.
To there, exactly, which is not that difficult. No, it involves a ramp up to the dam wall, and then from the medicinal spiral, we need to do a similar compacted walkway to the aloe bed. And from the aloe bed, which has walkways, we need to do a walkway to the Otaniqua fynbos bed. That already has walkways, and from there to the mushroom meander. Then we've linked up all our walkways. And that is one of my aims, to try and see if we can get that done. The other thing is that the garden really lacks signage at the moment. And I've not installed almost any signage. I'm trying to think, here and there, maybe the main entrance signboards and so on. But the directional signage, we've tried to work on the current signage by improving the quality of it, by painting it and treating it and so on. But we need new directional signage. We need new interpretive signage like tree tags and boards on fynbos and forest and conservation. We need even rule and regulatory signage, dog signage. Where can you walk your dogs without a leash? Where must you control the dogs? How must you control the dogs? All of that. We are a dog-friendly botanical garden, but that comes with its perks, and it comes with its problems.
Yeah.
And some of the problems are that dogs run around, chasing animals, chasing wildlife, swimming in the dam, and leaving dog litter all over the place. So that can only be, firstly, hopefully controlled through good, effective signage, and then enforcement. But maybe if the signage is effective, the enforcement is not necessary of the rules. But right now, there are not even rules to see really that what you should and should not do. So that's important. So that's directional, interpretive, and regulatory signage. And what other project? We want to finish the Otaniqua fynbos bed. Okay. So that's a big fence.
I just wanted to ask now about the fynbos.
So the fynbos was very much lacking in the garden. Yeah. So, but I think that's coming along nicely. We've planted over the last 2 years, even 3 years, a huge amount of fynbos plants, cool. Which we were lucky to do or fortunate to do because of our nursery setup. We've got a very nice propagation nursery, a big facility.
You collect the seeds in the mountains and then just germinate.
And cuttings. We do a lot of propagation through cuttings, fynbos cuttings even. And we've been very fortunate to be able to collect a lot. And we've got a permit that Cape Nature give us every year when we apply for it, but we're lucky to get it, which allows us to collect cuttings.
That's nice.
So we just need to speak to landowners, and then we can. And I'm trying to get in many pure species and local species as possible. We're not a South African.
It's also cool to have like all the vulnerable and endangered species in the mountains. You can display
and have a particular bed for rare plants.
I think that will be very cool. That will be cool. Because I think a lot of people are unaware of what's around us here. I've noticed with my students, they don't even know what is a Erika.
So we need to start with the basics. Exactly. And that we can do. The plants are here. We just need to put up the signage, which is going to be a major thing. Yeah. We still have, so that bed will be, we need to finish planting it, because once it's finished planting, it still needs to stand for about 2 years before we can remove that fence. The fence is there because of the bushbuck again. They've got a particular liking for king proteas. And yes, there were about
Interesting.
10 king proteas that have been planted on that Botanical bed previously when they originally started to develop it. And many of those died, and some were just eaten right down. And every time they push new leaves, they get eaten. So,
But at least they're what you call them resprouters.
some of them pulled through because of that.
Some of them will pull fruit.
But they still need to establish.
Yeah.
So now the bushbuck can get in there, but we must make sure there's enough foliage in there so that the damage they do doesn't cause the plants to die. So if there's enough food to go around. So I think if the plants are a meter tall and they're going strong, especially the king proteas, then we can open up. And we've planted a quantity of king proteas there. I mean, there must be about 20 to 30 king proteas now, if not more. So it's a magnificent plant. So if they're grown a bit and they are a meter tall and full of leaves, there'll be so much food there. The bushbuck won't be able to eat all of them.
Then they all start flowering.
And then they're flowering. Cool. Yeah, that bed is going to look spectacular. But we need to finish the planting because we can't open it up until the latest little plants have established. At least the main areas, there's still big bare sections of maybe 200 square meters that need to be planted. It's fine if most of it is planted and there are little gaps in between, we can keep planting and keep filling the gaps while the fence is gone. But if the majority is settled, then that's good. So that's a major development to get that done and ticked off. Those will be 3 important boxes, linking pathways, planting the Taniqua fynbos bed, completing it, and then doing signage.
The signage.
And there are always other little things, lots of things.
That fence broken that side, you'll fix that, stuff like that.
There's continued maintenance. And then another development that's very exciting is the development of the expansion of the garden. You're asking long-term goals as well. So
I always want
we really want to expand the garden. First,
if you can get the pine forest here, actually.
It's not a pine forest anymore, but
they took it away now.
It's being chopped currently, but already 80% is gone.
Wow!
So they're going quickly. I wanted to see if we can't save a few pines because it also, in a way, creates a habitat for birds of prey to nest in, sit in.
And also, can it be in shade for indigenous?
Yeah, it goes against establishment. It goes a little bit against my mandate to keep indigenous only.
Yeah.
But it's sad to see the habitat loss. And people enjoy a pine forest. But just keeping 100 square meters of pine forest and letting the rest go would be nice. But every pine tree is worth a lot of money for the timber company, and they've got the right to remove all of them. And then they could even, we don't want them to replant. That's the big thing. So I'm actually having a meeting with the manager at 2 o'clock this afternoon to start discussing plans. I'm not sure if they know about our plans, but we are going to work through ministerial routes to get this land.
What side do you guys want to
We're going to go west, not north yet, because west is manageable. West is between us and Glenbarry, and it also links us then to the Van Riebeek gardens that go right the way down and then becomes a Roy Rivier. And then it's a green belt. So then we're linked to that green belt, which would be really positive. And we can have pathways running from the botanical garden right the way through town.
Exactly.
The Van Riebeek might not become part of us anytime soon, but it will be more managed. I think there is a move to manage that area, to create pathways, to create a vibrant garden. But their management is different from ours. They're not so much focused on botanical as much as creating just a garden in general. They don't have the same principles of indigenous. There's a lot of exotic trees there, big exotic trees. It's a beautiful arboretum, and we can't lose those trees, as long as they're not invasive. But exotic non-invasive isn't bad, but it doesn't belong in a botanical garden like ours, which is very focused on the Garden Route indigenous plant life. So we'll see, the two will be linked and there will be access between them, but there will be controlled access, and that's how I see it in the future. But developing to the west of us, the pine forest will be removed, and that's our opportunity to move in and then plant indigenous forest and fynbos in there, and wetland. And maybe even to create a wetland park, which will be act as a buffer zone for flooding, future flooding, so that the floods will be alleviated by this wetland before they hit town. Because much of Comfort's Drift suburb is within the 100-year flood.
floodplain.
Within the 100-year flood mark even. Houses will be
Wow.
completely flooded if we get a 100-year flood in this area.
Sure.
So that's it's important to see that we establish this wetland. It'll be a nice, what do we call it, an ecological service.
Yeah. But if I'm not mistaken, that mushroom walk, that forest was also pine, wasn't it?
That was pine, yes.
Yeah.
So it's a nice example.
You can see it can establish again a forest. Oh.
And now we've got the seed bank there, which will spread west.
Yes.
And that mushroom meander forest, just interestingly, is a memorandum of understanding between us and the Department of Forestry. It is not municipal land. So the moment you enter the mushroom meander area, that is Department of Forestry's land. It's not municipal land, and it's not actually part of the botanical garden as the George municipality see it. Our garden ends in line with the Atoniqua bed, basically, that famous bed. So that's the municipal botanical garden. So the municipality need to try and swap so that that entire piece of land from the Atoniqua famous bed right the way through to Glenbarry becomes municipal land, and then that we can sign a contract with them that it becomes part of the botanical garden and as a nature reserve. So that's the future, and then hopefully to move up north from that point, to go have established that and then go up.
To go up,
but
towards the mountain. Basically.
Because there are so many, to follow those two streams, which the Roy Rivier, or what do they?
I think that would be very cool. You can add the mountain, like the natural, because think of Kirstenbosch.
Exactly, it becomes the mountain.
It becomes the mountain.
And then Kirstenbosch, it meets
cool.
up with the national park there, Table Mountain National Park, and we would meet up with the Atoniqua Nature Reserve, and then have this conservation green belt.
Cool.
So that is definitely
will immensely help the botanical garden in terms of tourism.
Yes, because you'd have these trails going up to waterfalls and pools, and with beautiful views over the town. And we can have a trail to George Peak starting in the botanical garden and then linking up with the gate, linking up to the mountain. You don't even need gates at the top because it's quite safe. You just need to fence and control at the bottom to stop. There's a lot of people sleeping in the mountain illegally, making fires, and that needs to be controlled. But towards the top down, it's safe. It's bottom up that's a problem. So here we need to manage quite strongly, and the management becomes less and less the higher you go, as long as the alien invasive species are controlled. And that's our biggest concern. We don't have the budget or the means to manage the exotic invasive vegetation above us at this point. No, we don't have that, and the municipality hasn't got it either. It's a huge piece of land, and it needs a lot of management. So we would be able to manage this piece between us and Glenbarry, I believe. It will still be difficult, but it's manageable. With a bit of help, we can do it. And there's a lot of support from the community. So I think I'm not very concerned about that. But taking on with the moment, it becomes our responsibility. We need to manage it, and we need to show that it's kept well kept, the exotics especially. And you hike in these mountains, you know the state of it at the moment. It is really, I feel sorry for whoever has that responsibility. And I think it's probably the pine company.
Thing is, if a fire comes through now, it's going to get worse.
Every fire, it'll get worse because the pine are waiting for fires so that they can rejuvenate the wattles, the blackwood. Yeah, and
all the
interesting.
other weird things, wild mustards, and what else is there?
Something I noted which was very, very interesting. Scary, good, I'm not sure how you want to put it. I went to do an investigation on a private property last week where the shottle borer beetle, the Polyphagus shottle beetle, has made a comeback. And in Hookville. And they had an oak tree in their garden, and it was infested with the beetle, and it was dying rapidly. And some indigenous trees were also dying, like the weeping boerbean, Scotia. The Scotia group is very susceptible, Scotia genus. And what's other? Also your anything in the Rutaceae family. So plants like the Calodendron capense, Cape chestnut, and Vepris lanceolata, white ironwood, they're also susceptible to being killed by the shottle beetle. So that is a problem. They also had a Calodendron which was being attacked, still likely, but they had these dead blackwoods in their garden and they didn't ring bark them. And I started investigating, and I couldn't find an infestation of the bug, but I did find holes, 1 or 2 little holes. And then I've looked at, they had a whole bunch of big blackwood trees in their garden. So I looked at these and they were all losing color. And it was so interesting. And just a small number of wounds, not like the oak with hundreds and hundreds of shottle, beetle, infestation, but just 1 or 2 or 3 attacks, but the tree was dying.
Yeah.
So I know that the beetle doesn't kill the tree, as you know, it's the fungus, that kills the tree. So the blackwoods might be highly susceptible to this fungus, which would be very interesting. Now, if only a few beetles attack the tree and then it dies, it probably means that they won't spread too much. They need a host like an oak. And from the oak, if there are blackwood in the area, they would kill and wipe out all the blackwood around the oak. But they won't be able to necessarily spread along the blackwood because the blackwood is not a breeding tree for them.
100% correct. That's how it works. I've noticed that. I don't know if you know, but I did my work on shuttleboard. My master's on it. So I worked on it, and that's what we saw mainly. If you had a big host plant, then everything gets attacked. But it doesn't mean everything's going to die. But if that host is removed, everything around it's usually fine. So that's why George is a bit better now, because all the oaks died off. They're gone now. So now the beetle is kind of slowed its pace, and now in Stellenbosch and Cape Town,
where there's lots of oaks, that's where it's coming back.
Hosts. Yeah. So now it looks much worse.
So get rid of the main hosts, and then you control the beetle
Basically,
problem.
That's what I've noticed.
But they must
not everyone will agree with me, but.
You've spent a lot of hours looking at it.
Not everyone was in the field a lot of hours.
No.
That's what I've seen. So,
It's just scary how some trees, like I said, I mean, I had a lovely Scotia latifolia in my parents' garden that I planted myself, and it was 5 meters tall, and within weeks it was wiped out by But again, if it wipes out, if the tree dies so rapidly, then it's not a host tree, because the beetle doesn't breed in dead trees. It only breeds in living trees. Yeah. So it needs to have a large tree that it can really breed up in, an oak, in order to.
Like we've seen it breed in the plane trees, but the plane trees didn't die. They bred in them, but the plane trees are still standing after so many years. 6 years ago.
While the acacia melanoxylon just wipes it out.
Wipes it out. And then you get that box elders in Cape Town, also host tree, awful. Also stays alive for a certain period of time, and then it only dies. So it's an interesting thing. We found it in Virgilia, but once again, I don't think it likes Virgilia even as a host.
Yeah, it's salted. And likes Ceralia a lot in this garden.
I've seen it. Yeah, that affinus.
But even so, Ceralias are dying very slowly. It's not like it's nothing. Like the poor Scotias, they get so some trees are just so susceptible to the virus. They just the fungus. So that is interesting. So maybe you're right. It's not another wave necessarily that's coming for George. It's hitting other places which haven't been hit.
Yeah.
And it's using those trees to attack.
Well, it's so interesting, but then you get other oak trees still here in George. I drive around and I see a lot of oak trees, and they're very healthy, and there's nothing wrong with them. Like, what's the reason? Why didn't the shuttleboard go for that specific? Is it a genetic thing, maybe? Is it, I don't know, does that one have more resources available or less or something like that? There's a lot of mystery to it. That's what makes it so interesting.
Yes. And you didn't work on any treatments in your studies?
No, we just did monitoring basically and see how it spreads.
So the only outcome is destroy the main hosts to try and...
There's a lot of people using that to make money out of it. Of course, several treatments that they do.
So they're treating the fungus?
They treat the fungus, and then you have this other... I can't remember the name now, but to repel them from going to a tree, but I don't know if that's really efficient at all. So I don't know. I just let nature be nature, and unfortunately, in my opinion, trees die. trees don't live forever as if you think it would. Remember, a tree is also a living organism. Yes, it lives longer than a human, but it also goes through dips.
In a big system where there are hundreds of trees, I don't think it's an issue because it's the trees will die. But the trouble if this is your garden, and especially if you are elderly and you've planted the trees and you now have established, it's very emotional.
Loss.
You've got your 20 trees that are magnificent or 10 trees.
Yeah, it's super sad if that happens.
And that's where people are willing to do anything to save their trees. Because they can't just put another tree that is 50 years old into their garden.
You've seen that tree grown so big and I can just imagine. The feeling is awful. So I grow trees myself, and if I plant them and see how wonderful they grow, I just like something warm inside me, like glowing up, and like, it's so big now. And now all of a sudden, there it dies. I will be devastated. I can understand that. It's hectic. What's the time now? We still have time.
Yeah, we still have time.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, what are some of the challenges here at the Botanical Garden? So you mentioned all of this paperwork and maintenance, all of that, but what is the main
for me challenge? Also being very involved with projects and trying to grow the garden and get things done. I think finances, it's a big curb to what we're trying to do. Finding money is a big problem. And I'm slowly getting to learn and getting to know people who are able to help us out. But some of the projects are very big and they require a lot of money, and it's a challenge. It's definitely an ongoing challenge. And I'm trying to grow the staff capacity, and some of the staff have been here for a long time and never had a decent increase, trying to look after the staff, and that's really difficult. We are really, we are a proper non-profit organization in the way that the future always looks bleak, but then it always works out somehow. People come in and help. We haven't had a now we're going to retrench. But there's always like this looming fear of, are we going to have to retrench the staff in 2 months' time, or some of the staff, because of situations. And then 2 months later we don't, because we get help. But it's not like we're sitting comfortably and say, we can pay salaries for the next 2 years or whatever. And that's just salaries. That's not even getting to big projects like the signage. We need every single project that we need done in this garden. I need money for, which I need to get from a sponsor. I can't take it out of just our normal budget or our money that we generate we generate money from the nursery, selling plants at our nursery that we grow or buy and sell, and we generate money from renting our facilities to the restaurant and the school. There's a school study house and Il Giardino restaurant. They pay very moderate, I think, fee for these facilities. And then we also generate income through people coming into the garden, and that's why we're very happy this facility, this entrance gate that the municipality have built, and the way the garden has been worked on, we're able to have raised our fees. From when I started here, it was 20 Rand per person, now it's 30 Rand per person. And that helps a lot. And then our membership. So you could become a member. I think it's now 250 Rand for an adult annual membership. And that's like a wild card system. You then have free access until your membership expires. And our membership base has grown substantially over the last 3 years, as people love coming here to walk their dogs and just bring their kids and enjoy the garden. And then it makes sense to be a member rather than paying the 30 Rand every time.
Especially if you live close by.
And as we've increased the entry fee, our membership increased because it's more expensive to come in through the entry fee, so it makes more sense to become a member. And I'm trying to go in the direction where the community of George must see the membership as being affordable to the broader community even. So looking at ways we can achieve that, having a family membership that is affordable to certainly to the community of George, and then having a entry rate or entry fee that is not really applicable to the community of George, but more for the tourists, which is what national parks and many other organizations have done. They try and accommodate the community through membership systems, and tourism they pay at the gate. and then your entry fees can go up, but you need to hold back on the membership fees.
Yes.
Now, the trouble is this garden has a history where the membership started while it was still free access. So there was a membership system that came into place so that the membership system could fund the garden. So we're sitting still with quite a, a high membership rate. And now now we've got this entrance fee that's growing. So I'm hoping that that shift will happen where the membership will increase less and be more stable, and the gate fee will increase more as the garden becomes nicer, so that we can generate income more through the entrance. I think that's what Kirstenbosch, they've got a very steep entrance. I'm not sure, it used to be 200, it's way over 200 rand now, I think.
I used to use my student card because it was too expensive.
It's too expensive. But you could be a Botanical Society member, and now they've got a Sanby membership card system.
Oh yes, that's true. Yeah.
And that's how it makes it affordable for people to visit the gardens.
How many people do you guys get here?
I think our membership is sitting around 700. And then that doesn't include walk-in people that come in and pay. And so I need to start looking this
the
year.
rate of people that come here per day, for instance?
It depends very much on the season. It depends on weekends and weekdays and December, peak season, low season, and the weather plays a role. But as we get a lot of wonderful marketing through George Tourism, George doesn't have that much to offer, so our competition isn't great. It's us and the Redberry Farm and the Railway Museum and the George Museum and the beaches. And the mountain, the trail. They've now got George Trails that they're trying to advertise as well. The little power van, yes, that's on there. So there's a couple of things to do in George, but we're quite high on that list, and we're climbing as the most popular destination in George, and I think we'll get there. That is. So our feet is increasing. I'm not pushing that ball at the moment because I would like to get the garden up to scratch first, get the paths linked. Get wheelchair access, because for me a botanical garden is not a botanical garden without interpretive signage. We've got a few tree tags scattered through the garden, maybe 20, maybe a little bit more than 20. We need
signage with like a whole story about this tree or a whole story about this plant.
Exactly, and the habitats and the culture, and we've got the medicinal spiral, which has so much potential, which it hasn't reached. And next to it, there's a Khoisan maze. We need to have a Khoisan hut in there, with like a traditional hut, Khoi hut, with all the stories about that.
That would be cool.
And that maze, we call it the Khoisan maze, only on the map.
We call it the Utonikwa maze or something like that, because Utonikwa is a tribe, right? That's where the name comes from.
Yes.
Utonikwa tribe.
So there's a lot of tribes that were operating in this area, and all of that needs to go onto signage. Exactly. You can read up about some of it at the museums in Mossel Bay, but we need it here. And that will be, so we can bring in the cultural aspect. And
bring in the lumber industry, history aspect as well. That would also be super cool for me to see, because you get it in nice now. If you go to Sandparks there, you have the museum there with the elephant, Deep Valley.
Yes.
But you can actually do it here as well. You can easily do it here. I think it's much closer. I think you'll get a lot of people for that as well.
Now, so if we can expand, again, it's all, we need to find a way to generate an operational budget with which we can work, so there's a little bit less stress, and also operational for maintaining structures. I don't think we'll ever run our own restaurant. And Sandparks have a couple of their own restaurants, which I take my hat off for them to achieve that. Like Mountains Ever, I think National Park has its own restaurant, I think so, which is brilliant. But what we should do is, instead of having a school at the Environmental Education Centre, we should be running an Environmental Education Centre. We do not have the budget to run an Environmental Education Centre at this point. But that we can have all of that brought into that centre, because that's where we have that structure, and around that we can bring in history and have about the Houtkappers, Boskappers, and all of that brought into that center. There's so many classrooms, so many walls, so much space for information. Right now it's just being run as a school because the school maintains the building, helps us to maintain the building and brings us an income. and we don't have the funds to run it.
Do you guys do weekly seminars or stuff like that?
We have been talking about it. We're finally really building a connection with the Nelson Mandela University, and they mentioned having lecturers come here, and even PhD students, master students.
Let them do a seminar on their study,
And
I think that would be very cool.
Yeah.
Because then I can bring students with, and they can come watch a seminar.
What time? So the evenings will be challenging.
Yeah, evenings. But
So you
that's
think
usually when it is, right?
Yes,
When
because it's difficult.
It's difficult. Yeah.
So we need to consider all those things.
Yeah.
Let's think out of the box. Let's have seminars at 10 in the morning, or if it works. But these.
I can remember I always went when I was in Belleville. I went to Tygerberg Nature Reserve seminars. I think it was a Tuesday evening.
Sure.
And it's just when people from the Cape Town came and just spoke about their work. It was very interesting, very informative. I really enjoyed it. That created a big passion for me. That was just before I went to go study ecology and entomology. So it's very cool. So
Yeah.
you just need that passion,
Yes.
But yeah, I'm sure you have a lot of ideas of the botanical garden. I think you are exactly the right person to be here because you were born here and you know how the system works and all of that, and I can see you're passionate about it. So I think it's great.
I really am excited about seeing how we can develop this garden further, and I've got lots to learn. As I said, hopefully in a year's time or 2 years' time, I won't be complaining about the finances because I would have learned how to find ways to get. I mean, I've already learned a lot.
If you little by little,
I mean, this year we've went on and spoke to Dot Sure, and they've come on board. They've spent 100,000 rand buying staff uniforms, which has taken 100,000 rand off our budget that we didn't have to spend on, and because you can't not give your staff PPE. So they've gone almost overboard with really helping us to have a nice uniform for the staff, and you have happy staff and you get better work out of them. So
no, definitely.
So there's little things, and they also said they would help with some of the signage. So getting to know the different sources of income is important, I think, in my role going forward, because that's how it is. But that's our biggest challenge by a long way. And there's other little challenges that we can get schools to help with. In alien invasive clearing will be continuous. It's little aliens now. The wattle and the eucalyptus, the gums are under control. The pines are under control. The bugweed is under control. But what's not under control, and it's becoming, is something like swordfern, which is a silly plant to lose grip on, but we've lost grip on it. It's everywhere. It'll take weeks to put it all out. And then you pull them out and they're very good at coming back again. They just leave little bits behind.
Swordfern there at our pond, but I've seen like a lot of insects love it, there's spiders and praying mantis in between, so I feel like it's okay for now, but if I establish another indigenous plants around it, then I'll probably take it up. I'm going to keep it there because
it creates habitat. No, it creates habitat.
But we don't want it really there.
And trouble is with the roots and the way it grows is for invertebrates and insects, it certainly will create habitat. I'm still trying to test ways of how we can get rid of that, because indigenous ferns would create better habitat. So, and here we have the possibility. There are so many indigenous ferns. Some of them look so similar to sword fern that if I send teams in, I'm always concerned they're gonna pull out all the black nyms with the sword ferns. So that's the challenge. I'm actually go in there with like red pepper spray. Pepper spray all the tips of the leaves of the indigenous ones, so they can. That's the trouble. I can't spray. Spray paint exotics, because there are many more exotics than indigenous. So you have to spray the few indigenous ones and hope they will take over once the exotics have been removed.
That's an interesting concept, like I never knew how to ID ferns, but now, because I walked a lot in the forest, you just get an eye for it.
Yes, you do.
You can just see, okay, that's indigenous, that's definitely invasive fern, that's not part of the system. So you can get that, teach people how to get that connection with the habitat, and everything becomes so much more easier.
You've got to always try and put yourself in other people's shoes. And when you, especially I think the older I get, the more I sometimes think, I I just accept other people can do what I can do. I can't do what other people can do. They've got knowledge that I don't have, and I've got knowledge that they don't have. So, yeah, walking around, I see the world differently, and I hear things differently. Right now, I can tell you what birds are calling outside around us. I can make a quick list of all the species. And I mustn't accept that anybody and everybody can do that. They don't. They might not even hear the birds outside. So yeah, it's and that's why we've got to share. We've got to share knowledge, and we've got to try and teach one another to spot that, as you said.
That's the whole reason I'm doing this. I'm teaching you maybe a little bit. You're teaching me a lot. So that's why I'm doing these podcasts. Because I love it. I love speaking to people and just learning from each other. I just want to ask you about the wetland, because there was, I'm just curious, because it was dry at the stage.
That's a good question.
And then you filled it up. But did you guys fill it up, or just it got filled up with the rain?
No, I got here and I thought the right way to manage that wetland is to have it full. Now we have a lay-fur system, so furrows that lead from the mountain. So we fixed that up a bit so that that system is semi-functional. To fix it up properly, we have to. The stream used to be dammed with a small weir, but that weir was washed away many years ago. And we're not going to just go and fix that up because it's it triggers an environmental impact assessment. But our pipe hangs above the river, so whenever it comes down like it's flowing at the moment, the water will go through the pipe and then comes into the lay-fur. And with that lay-fur, we can control the levels of the dams. There's one spot where you can shift between where the water goes this way or that way. So with the rains and having fixed that up, I filled up both dams and tried to keep both full. The first, we had big projects trying to fix the wall of the main dam, and anyhow during that time we had to divert any water coming down the furrow into the wetland. So in 2023 and 2024 and most of 2025, the first half of 2025, the wetland was full to capacity. Before that, it might have been dry, but it was very full. And then once we were able to, in 2020, from 2024 already, middle of 2024, we had the dam fixed and we filled it up, and we had to keep water. The dam took the priority because of the fact that we're now able to pump water out of the dam to bring water to the nurseries and water the garden. So we don't want to, if there's rain, we fill up the dam first, but then we filled up the wetland, and we're able to keep both full. And now the droughts, the most terrific drought we've seen in many a year, have hit George, and we had no rain, not much rain since May. And whenever we had rain, we prioritized the dam. And the wetland went dry, very dry. And now there's mud in front of the bird hide. And now, suddenly, the biodiversity is increasing. We're getting birds like African rail and red-chested flufftail visiting the hide. And if I look at the history of the hide previously, when it was dry, there were sightings of little bittern and purple heron. We've just had purple heron there again. So I think a wetland that is drier actually hosts more species than one that, and it depends on the structure of the wetland. So our wetland is not really a wetland. It's a dam that has got a lot of silt in it. And the reeds, because of the water not being able to go as deep as it used to, the reeds have been able to grow throughout the dam. But because it's a dam, the edges go straight down, and then it's got a fairly flat surface. It's just got some sludge in the bottom, but it's still structured, and underneath the basic structure is that of a dam. A wetland, a natural wetland, will have a very slow gradient with areas being subducted or underneath water and areas above water. And there would be different habitats for different creatures along the gradient.
Yes.
We didn't have that. It was just garden and water with reeds in it. So now we've dropped that level. It has initially not purposefully, but dropped. And now we're noticing the sudden increase.
Effectively created different habitats.
Because we've got that island that we formed when we pull out the reeds, we chuck them. There's an island created for biomass.
That's interesting that you mentioned that. I think that's a very important concept about a wetland. I don't think a wetland should be wet all the time. It should dry out and go wet, dry out, and it's like
cycles.
A cycle, yeah. Because I think birds also like that cycle.
And insects.
Insects, yes.
So the wetland is deep. It's 2 meters deep. I think even now, at its deepest point, it must be at least 1.5 meters of water. But in front of the hind, it's very shallow. It's maybe 40 centimeters deep, 40, 50. Maybe in the deepest, it could be 1 meter. But I think it might be 2 meters at the deepest point if you walk right through the middle of it. So there are some sinkholes where the sludge hasn't built up.
Yeah.
And you can see those because if you look into the wetland, there are spots where there are no reeds. And that's where it's too deep for the reeds to grow. Otherwise, they would be there. So there's still plenty of water for frogs and the whole cycle of life of a wetland to continue while it's so low, seemingly low. So I'm going to keep it low. I'm going to stop water from going in there, apart from rain coming from above. And because the furrow, most of the water that falls on the fields drain into the furrow, and the water from the stream comes through the furrow directs 95% of the garden's water into the dam, that which is above the dam. And if we don't direct it into the wetland only really gets water that falls right into it from above.
On top,
So unless we get 300 mils of rain or 200 mils of rain, it won't fill up.
It won't fill up.
Unless we get that big rain.
Big, yeah.
So I think it will be interesting.
I think that's nice that you're doing that, because if you want to replicate a natural wetland,
and you want to, in this where we are now, if we listen to David Attenborough, we need to promote biodiversity in whatever we do, whatever we can do to promote biodiversity. So you want to plant indigenous, but not just 3 species. You want to plant as many different indigenous species as you can. And if you can manage a wetland to promote biodiversity, then you need to find out how to do that. If you can, if you've got a big piece of land, you don't want to burn the whole piece of. If you've got 2,000 hectares to manage, you don't want to burn 2,000 hectares at a time. If you've got to manage fire, you want to burn little patches.
Yeah.
Because then there'll always be space for biodiversity to thrive. And you don't want to keep fire out either. So that's how you're going to manage biodiversity in that fire-driven ecosystem. Yeah. So in the fynbos, we've got to do the same thing. We've got to keep planting and keep hacking areas that are older and try and maintain biodiversity.
That's a concept that a lot of people don't understand. But they see these fires and they think it's bad for the environment. But yeah. Good in a way as well.
It's good, yeah. It's necessary. It's absolutely necessary as long as it's done patchy.
Yes.
So when we get and when we don't manage fire because of alien infestations, then it doesn't burn patchy. It burns viciously and homogeneously over massive pieces of landscape. I don't remember the exact square mileage or square kilometer, but it was a vast distance that burned in 2018 when we had the big fire here.
Did it come in the botanical garden actually?
No, it didn't burn in the garden, but I think that it burned in the pine forest right next to us. So it's the indigenous forest. It's fireproof.
Yeah, that's 8 years ago. Hey? So that means we're almost getting to that point where we expect another
It's a 10, 15 year cycle.
Yeah.
And with this drought, the conditions are ideal. But it seems like the worst of the drought is broken because February has been wet.
It's been raining now.
And
apparently it would have rained 100 millimeters today, but it changed now. It's like 4.
Which indicates the summer rainfall. We're getting thunderstorms, which is very unpredictable. And you can see that if it was a cold front that was coming in, they would have been able to predict it down to the T.
Yes.
But not with these summer rainfall events. They fluctuate so much. And it's interesting, if you watch, one of the channels I follow is YR Weather. And it will, in the prediction in the morning is different from the afternoon. So I think they have 2 ends of a line, and then they give you the one and the other. And because every morning it will say maybe for the coming rain 80 mil and then 8 mil, 80 mil, 8 mil, as it tells you this is actually going to fluctuate between these 2 extremes. They don't know exactly what it'll be, but it's going to fluctuate. And with the weather we've been having in George, it's often 0 mil. But it'll be nice if we get some rain this week. I mean, at the moment they're still producing.
The soil is saturated now from last week, so I feel like we need a good rain now again to fill up the dam and all of that.
Our rain gauge is just outside here, and that looks like we had more than 10 mil last night.
I also want to check. I put a rain gauge there at the school as well.
So that's something that's good to do with the kids.
Yeah.
I was exposed to it first year university when one of the lecturers that I really enjoyed, Stefan Hutton, he's in Australia now. He said, if we ever in a management position, these are things we need to do. And one of those things were to put up a rain gauge and monitor the climate. And and if you can, you do humidity, temperature, rainfall, wind speed. But do what you can, and the most important is rainfall.
I actually want to do all of that. And the owner of the school, or the boss, the big boss there, he's actually keen for it. He wants to put on a whole
and you can put
wind meter. He wants to calculate the wind, the humidity. He wants everything.
And you can get a system, state-of-the-art system. It's going to cost a pretty penny. But to put up a rain gauge costs $100.
Yeah, that's nothing.
And
that's easy.
So that needs to go up immediately. Then you get these fancy rain gauges that self-empty. And if you get 300 mil through the night, they will measure it without overflowing.
Let's actually check for that.
Yeah, so
I don't want to go there every day.
So that makes sense, because also now I've got some continuity. I've got these we've got annual internships at the garden, and I let the interns manage the rain and the temperature because I want to teach them. Although I'm still very careful about entering the data myself because I want to make sure the data is accurate. But the data collection is also part of it being accurate.
Yeah.
So we've got now, I just grab this and I can show you very nice data, and you can see how it's evolved from when I started basically in April, the month after I started here in March 2023, and I started collecting. First I put up a rain gauge, and then I started with temperature, and we did rainfall and temperature, and I've got this on Excel as well, but it's quite just to show you how it improved and evolved. Because if you started,
you can see how many rain days you had as well.
Yes, and you can
look at that, only one.
Yeah, some months were very, very. What's that? November. November was terrible that year, and then we elaborated on it. And we tried different. We had two different temperature measuring to see the difference, because it's difficult to find an accurate temperature measuring apparatus.
Yeah,
they differ.
It's difficult to get it accurate.
Some of them you think it's cold, and then the measurement doesn't look cold enough, or it's a very hot day and then the measurement doesn't look hot enough. And then you wonder how accurate it is. So we got two, and then we kept the one that we thought was most accurate, and we did humidity for a while, and then we went from you'll see eventually we scratched the one, and we said no, we're not going to continue with both. And we were still going with both of them. And the humidity is influenced also by the placement of your humidity gauge.
Definitely.
So, but the point being, it is very humid in
just
Georgia.
Stay consistent. Just keep it at the same spot.
And you do pick it out in
that's
dry months.
super humid.
Yeah, it's humid. It's very humid. It's like almost 100% humidity. So I thought, this is the place to grow plants in Georgia with the humidity like this. But our temperature isn't always high enough. So this evolved, and then later we went back to that thermometer. We still had both for a while, and then we went. Then we upgraded it further. Last year we just ran with one, and we did the maximum, the minimum temperature, and the rainfall every single day. And we're still doing that today. And we've got so much data, and it's just slowly.
Now you can see why we're in a drought.
Yeah,
not a lot of rain. It's nothing really over 10.
Yeah, and
there was a big one, October.
That one, but it's been dry, and it's nice on Excel. You can now start playing with this data and really get. And there I've got formulas that work out monthly rainfall, annual rainfall, average rainfall, average temperature.
Exactly. So you have data on like previous years, like from when the botanical garden started.
Unfortunately, this was never kept, or I don't found any records of this. That there's ever any rainfall kept in the garden, but I got records from the neighbours, from Glenbarry, from Denneoord. So very nice. Some of the record going back to 30 years, 35 years of rainfall records. And some of these people are retired professors, and they kept a meticulous record of rainfall in George. And being only a mile away from us or so, it's very similar to our record. So it's nice to compare. And rainfall, and also
I like that, but it's crazy how much the rain will differ between where I lived in Blanco and here.
Yes,
you'll hear like a person say, "Oh, it was rain like 40 millimeters here." I was like, "Oh, but it only rained like 20 where I was." It's like It's amazing how the rainfall is so different and just
And you're
5
not-
kilometers away, you know.
And you're not that much further from the mountain.
No.
But I think the mountain sort of goes a little bit around George. So the clouds get trapped and here, and then get pushed up. And George Peak being, and Craddock Peak being the highest peak in the Outeniqua was just above us here. You get this orographic rainfall where the clouds are pushed up against the mountain and then they drop rain. So the rainfall becomes more and more the closer you get to Craddock Peak. And Craddock Peak is our catchment for our main dam. So when we get good rain like we did last night, there should be a lot of water coming into the dam. But this is a very good practice, I think. And I always, we did it in Addo, I started it in Yarrow, and here I've really enjoyed being able to look back. And now you can do some level of planning and you can start looking for patterns. And certainly you can see, if you go back and I look at the weather over the last 35 years, rainfall, how it was much more, what's the word, consistent. There were consistent patterns in Georgia's rainfall. And now it's just become very inconsistent. And that for me is a very clear indication of climate change and climate chaos, really.
Climate chaos.
I think
that's a good word, actually. That is what it is.
It's climate chaos. It's not this.
Because we're seeing much more intense rainfall events.
And out of place. And
out of
seasons
place,
are shifting. It's becoming warmer later.
I don't know if you've seen, but Prince Albert, you know, where Prince Albert is, they got no rain last year. Only 93 millimeters or something like that in the whole year of last year.
Yeah,
that's hectic. That's desert.
Yeah, I've been there this summer. I went there several times leading birding tours, and it is in a terrible state. It is really the south of the South
getting
is
rain
okay.
today, yesterday they got.
Well, we hope so because these predictions are
unreliable predictions.
The clouds come and they might pass, they might stop.
They might
never know. But I mean, the farmers there have nothing. The sheep, they must have sold their sheep because there really is. There's not even a bossy. There's not even the succulents are dying. I mean, I worked in Prince Albert for 9 months before. When I was still at university, I did for nature conservation. You have to do 2 years theory, 1 year prac, then you get your diploma, and then I did another year for my bachelor's. And for my prac, I spent 9 years in Prince Albert, and I spent 9 months in Prince Albert, and another, I think about 4 months or 5 months in near Grafenet in the game reserve. And in Prince Albert, I worked with Sue at the Renew Karoo Veld Restoration Nursery. And that was very interesting. So I got to know the succulents and the birds in the area, especially the plants, because Sue is a botanist, a brilliant botanist, Sue Milton. So I worked with her, and to see Prince Albert now, knowing it in the state that it is now, I know those plants are adapted, but they're suffering.
Still suffering.
Yeah, anything.
How long can those plants suffer, I wonder?
No, the succulents are incredible. They can go a long way, but even they have their limits. I mean, there were mass extinctions of succulent species in the Richtersveld, which is succulent paradise, which is our desert biome in South Africa, due to unprecedented droughts that they've had before we've had this recent year rain.
But then you also have the grazing as a problem as well.
But that's in a national park.
No.
So where they manage for plant biodiversity. And inside the Richtersveld National Park, they had extinctions of species due to drought. So they actually had to take plants out and plant them in a new botanical garden that they've started in the town. I think, what's the town there? There's a little town up in the Richtersveld that I forget now.
I'll know the town name. I should know it because I was there in July.
Let me just go there quickly. I guess it's on the tip of my tongue and I don't like it.
I love that place. The Richtersveld is really beautiful. You're talking about the town next to the river, next to the Orange River.
Maybe it's that one.
What is that town's name now?
I thought it was it was like a known name, but maybe it isn't. Maybe I'm thinking of Fieldsdrift. Anyhow, there is a very nice garden, and they've managed to save some of the species where it's being curated and looked after.
Peter works there.
But if that isn't done, then So if we don't, we are in a point in the environment. If we don't step in,
Yes.
we've already put it on the trajectory of it's tipping, and on this trajectory of disaster. And now we have to save and manage what we can by implementing strategies like going in and collecting seed and going in and taking plants out.
There was an aloe species that occurs on the mountains. There was thousands of them on the mountain. Hopefully, I'm not.
No, you're correct. You're
and
absolutely
it all
correct.
died because of the drought.
Yeah, and aloe. Man, it's the.
But what I also
I need
wanted
to have
to
another
say,
cup of coffee at this rate.
maybe if you can get the book. I see
Yes,
you have
I know. Something with a D. It's the Quakerboom. Quakerboom. It'll be in the front here.
I don't know if
The
it's
Curator. I think it's these ones.
No, there's another aloe
another one
species
as well.
actually. That's just from that area.
But even this one has gone.
Yeah, this one's
taken
also
a beating,
gone,
a major
it's also
beating.
taken a beating, yeah.
The half mains is
Especially this one.
Yeah, this one.
Pilansia, yeah. This one is the one that's taking a massive beating. Shame.
And it's a
And it's such a
desert aloe.
beautiful plant.
So they called Heliodendron now, I think. This group.
Yeah, the Heliodendron now. That's correct.
So they are really under threat, and I think this is where botanical gardens might play a major role in the future conservation of plants.
Yeah, especially for plants, it's going to get extended.
It's in a controlled environment. We can water when there is no water, and we can feed and look after and seed banks. So we need to do that. But then, yeah, you have to hope for good management in the gardens throughout the country and throughout the world, so that because even there's people are not perfect, and we make mistakes. So you get the wrong. Someone makes a mistake and the collection is only in the garden and the collection is wiped out. Luckily, there are lots of people involved in many of these gardens. There's a big community drive and support, so that also helps.
Yeah.
And then, there's the whole thing of the rarer a species become, then it also takes on value and becomes viable to poaching. Mm-hmm. And then what hope do we
I wonder
have?
if it wasn't this one.
Yeah.
This was also one in the Richtersveld, but I can't remember. I'm going to make it error here, so I don't want to make it. Well, what's so sad for me about this drought conditions, and especially a desert environment, there's so many species we haven't even discovered yet there. Like a lot of bulbs that only flower when it's raining, and the rain is so scarce there. So there's extinctions happening that we don't even know about.
And if a succulent like this aloe is dying because of drought, and it's got so much storage capacity, imagine the bulbs are also drying out.
They're also drying out, yes. Definitely.
They're living organisms. They can only survive with so much hardship, and they can survive a lot of hardship. But the sun beats down and there's no rain, and it just continues. Eventually, that's the end.
I like the arid regions. That's what makes it so interesting, our country.
How some of these plants can survive over time is when you have a drought like that in a natural system, the pests and diseases and the animals that feed on them are also wiped out by the drought to a greater extent than they are wiped out even. And they might not survive as a plant, but many of those bulbs might survive as seeds.
Yes.
And if you then have enough good years to follow, those seeds will germinate, and you have species that have gone extinct being resurrected from seeds, natural seeds.
You find that a lot in the wild. You find like species that were thought to be extinct, and they found them again.
And it's seed. It's incredible.
It's amazing.
But the trouble is then you need enough good years for those seedlings to settle and root and develop the resilience they need to face the next drought. They can't face a drought within 2 years of their establishment, because then the population will be wiped out permanently. And that's the time that we're sitting in, and it's difficult. It's very difficult.
What's the time? I think we should probably end it here, because we need to get to our work, obviously. But thank you so much, Christiaan. This was awesome. This was a great talk we had, and I think we should actually do it again in the future, maybe in a year's time or something, and we do it again and we see how we've grown and what I just hope we can
change.
do some more things together. I'm going to try and get more students to volunteer here a lot more and just get collaboration getting on. Just trying to help out where we can.
And we see what we can do. My immediate focus is the garden as it is now and just turning it up into a botanical garden. And hopefully we can see that happening.
Yeah, but all the best. I'm glad you're here. You're doing a great job. I think you are the right person to be here because you're passionate and you want to make this place beautiful. So,
thank you.